Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for logging on to CBS News Colorado and CBSDenver.com. It is time for a few more minutes with our Xfinity Monday live guest, Brad Lidge. Nice enough to join us tonight. Brad, we had a great time talking everything on the show, but I didn't get a chance to ask you about the Rockies and the expectations for the upcoming season, assuming that there is one, and I think that there will be. What do you make of where this franchise is right now and some of the moves that they have made or maybe have not made heading into this 2022 season?
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, I'm loving, Bud Black being here for hopefully many, many years. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he goes about things the right way. So the Rockies have a leader in the right place, and that's a fantastic start right there. Obviously, I mean, look, you lose Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story. It's going to be a tougher season for them coming up offensively. We'll see if on the other side of this lockout, they can make a move or two to kind of beef up that offense. But it'll be a tough year. It's going to be a tough season. I mean, you look at the NL West, the Dodgers are the Dodgers every year. The Padres are, of course, a team super loaded with talent. The Giants went crazy last year and won 101 games, I think. So it's a really tough division. I think that you have to be reasonable with the expectation for the Rockies this year. But, I think for the Rockies, at some point, they need to be okay with calling a rebuild and just going down that path and building up, seeing what you can do in the draft and then build up really strong, after that to see, when you can see who your guys are going to be. But at this point in this particular season, it's going to be a pretty tough stretch for them in 2022.
Brad, when you look at this franchise, they've had 2 winning seasons over the last 10 years. Part of that is because everybody in the division is so good. Part of that is because they just haven't had the talent to compete. When you look at what they've done in the front office, though, they promoted Bill Schmidt. He now takes over as the general manager. They promoted Sterling Monfort, Dick Monfort's son, to, let's see, I want to get the official title here, Director of Professional Scouting. How does the rest of Major League Baseball view these moves that the Rockies are making? And I think for fans, they're sitting here saying, why are we continuing to basically spin our wheels when we haven't done anything yet? We're continuing to promote from within.
Yeah, I mean, these are, absolutely internal hires. And, it's okay if these guys are in the right position at that time to go in there and have success at the job. The answer, we just don't know yet. We have to wait and see. I don't have any problem with internal hires for the most part, but it would be nice to see them, have a little bit more elaborate interview process perhaps, or go out there and peg a few guys. Sometimes you get to know your guys so well and you know who the winners are within your own organization and the guys that need to get elevated to those positions. But it is interesting that the Rockies haven't done as well and they're hiring from within. I think optically, that's where fans might be a little bit irritated. Like, hey, listen, the guys we have internally, it hasn't gotten done. So go out there and, get some other people for those front office jobs. But I would just say they deserve an opportunity for sure. But at some point, those outside hires can be obviously a really good idea.
Brad, you're a former pitcher, and obviously pitching at altitude and at Coors Field is always going to be a subject of conversation. The Rockies like to say attitude over altitude. But let's be honest here, like, how much does that have an effect? And in your mind, is there a recipe for success in terms of pitching in Colorado and making sure that altitude isn't necessarily a factor in that?
Well, listen, you can have a great attitude if you're a hitter here. I mean, it's a fantastic place to hit. It's hard to keep a great attitude when you're pitching here. So, but I think, honestly, what you don't want to do is become someone who has to pitch to 2 different games. So if you're a Rockies pitcher and you've got, system A at home and system, 2 or whatever, or B on the road, it gets really tricky and confusing and your mechanics can be off. You got to bring the same thing every single day. And I would say that I think the Rockies pitchers have done a really good job, getting out there and for the most part getting the job done. It will never be easy to be a starting pitcher at altitude. It just won't. But we have seen some great seasons. Kyle Freeland a couple years ago was remarkable to be able to do that here. And I think the Rockies starters, every year they have a really tough task ahead of them. It's really hard to stay healthy here as well. And I think that's kind of something that people can forget. The lack of oxygen really does make, muscle recovery, arm recovery more difficult. So staying healthy is a chore. It's a task, taking care of yourself and then having consistency here. When you do have a lot of shifting weather patterns, you have cold days, you've got really hot days, but you've always got the ball carrying more often than it does anywhere else. The thing that kills you, and you hear this from Rockies pitchers, is not necessarily the home runs that go out. It's the balls that drop in front of the outfielders because there's so much outfield to cover at Coors Field. So they have to range so far. It's just a hard place to pitch. And so anytime you see a Rocky starting pitcher having a really good season, you really got to tip your cap. It's a tough thing to do. You think about all the names the Rockies have brought in here over the last 20 years, 30 years. It's never been an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no, it certainly hasn't. Brad, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really enjoy your insight. For people who want more of Brad Lidge, tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, Sirius XM Radio. We're doing a show, Loud Outs. Me and Ryan Spielberg's the Rockies' own. It's actually on weekdays, 12 to 3, and we have a great time. Even during the lockout, we'll discuss our favorite movies and songs, take callers, do interviews, and we'll be crossing our fingers that a collective bargaining agreement happens here very soon.
Yes, hopefully sooner rather than later. Brad, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight, and thank you for logging on to CBS News Colorado and CBSDenver.com.